I love seeing John Rosso on. When you're following what a Sandler legend, that's got to make you a little nervous. And John is just that. But it was nice when I heard Amy introduce him, I realized I wanted to be John, and it turns out John wants to be me. So I thought that was kind of nice. So I'm going to try and, Amy mentioned discipline. I really never really thought of myself as a disciplined person. I really thought of myself as just that was the mechanics. And what came, when I joined the network, I immediately, just in every sales job I ever took, I just said, all right, well, what do I say? What is it that we do? What do I say? And then I would just say it more than everybody else. I would just get out there and put myself out there. But once I was sure of exactly what I was going to say, it didn't seem to be as difficult. And so I tried to take the difficulty out of the equation completely by just preparing more than everybody else. And that's what I'm going to do today. We're going to talk about two things primarily. The 30-second commercial. What do I say to jumpstart them into the pain funnel? Because sometimes I've gone to a meeting and I'm like, so why'd you invite me in? And I'm thinking, we're going to the pain funnel. It was right after the upfront contract. That's what the sub says. And then they're not ready to go. They're like, I don't know. Tell me what you got. And now I'm right back where every sales guy is with the tell me what you got story. Or tell me about your firm. And now I'm at a dead end. And what I realized is, hey, if I don't have that part tight, if I don't know what I'm going to say, then how am I ever going to get a referral? Because the people that appreciate what I'm doing, if they can't articulate to another human being what it is that I'm doing, how am I ever going to get a legitimate referral? So I kind of started tackling this problem. And being authentic, as it turns out, is not as easy as we think. I think we'd all say that we're authentic, or that people think that we're authentic. But the reality is being authentic takes some practice. And that's what we're going to do this morning, is dig in a little bit on exactly that. So when somebody says to you, why should I do business with you? Anybody ever get that question? Why should I do business with you? Yeah, a fair amount. So most people say something like this: quality, one-stop shop, competitive price, cool features and benefits. What's the problem with that? Anybody want to guess? That's what everybody is saying. So we immediately have a problem. And so I started obsessing on, all right, what do I say? What do I say if they say something like, what do you do? And so I have a 5-second version. Actually, I have 3 different versions of each one of them, but I'll try to keep it simple this morning. I have a 5-second version, a 30-second version, and a 60-second version. The 60-second version we're not going to go into much today, so I'll briefly cover that one. This is your B&I meeting, right? This is when they really legitimately want you to go for 60 seconds. And generally what I use this one for is just to tell a story. I tell a story about an existing client, and that brings it all together. The 5-second commercial is the tricky one, and this is the one that a lot of Sandler trainers don't teach. This is just one that I stole this from a client. And what the 5-second commercial in my world is designed to do is the 5-second commercial earns them the right to hear my 30-second commercial. Because I've had people say, what do you do? And it was a rhetorical question. They weren't saying, Tim, talk for 60 seconds about how cool you are. And that was a little, I'm delusional. I like that optimistic term that John threw in there. But the reality is, they're not asking you to talk for 30 seconds. So I use the 5-second commercial to very quickly find out whether they're asking me a serious question or they just wanted to talk about them. And if they wanted to talk about them, I know my 3 questions that I'm going to ask them. So the 30-second commercial, in my mind, is designed to find out if they've earned the right to hear my cool pain funnel questions. Right? Because I've got 9 directionally relevant questions that are going to take them from I didn't even know I had a problem to it turns out I do have a very specific problem that I've been thinking about for a long time. I've tried to fix it on my own unsuccessfully, and the impact that it's having, the consequences for me personally in my life are unacceptable. And Tim, can you help me? So I want to earn the right to ask those pain funnel questions, and I use the 30-second commercial to find out if they're ready to hear what we got. So here it is. It starts with a pattern interrupt. You guys have all heard this term, or I hope you've heard this term, but the idea is I need to not be like everybody else. Right out of the gates, I need to not sound like everybody else. And so let me dispel one quick myth before I get into this. Because these slides, by the way, are available to all of you. These are my notes. So I tried to give you something that you would actually have some notes that you could read later, like, what the heck did he say? He talks too fast from time to time. Slow down, buddy. So, but I want to dispel this myth. There is no perfect pickup line. right? If I said, do you come here often, it's been used so many times that it no longer works. So the stuff that I say, what I would say is take it, change it, make it better, make it your own, give it away, test it, refine it, give it back to me when it's perfect, and then I'll use it. But as soon as it's perfect and everybody starts using it, it's done. So we are on our Sandler journey, and that's the biggest thing I took away from life with BS, that's before Sandler, and life now, right, is that I'm on a journey, and I understand that I'm on a journey with a bunch of really smart people that are really dedicated to doing this better than everybody else. Because I know this, I have 2 seconds to connect. I go into every meeting, and they're like this, what's in it for me? And if I don't figure out right away what to say so that they go like this, and that's all I want them to do, just dip those hands just enough for me to poke you, and then I got you, all right? But I need to lower the defenses. It's not a combat situation here. I need to relax them. So I love, this is my standard pattern interrupt. This is the outline of a standard pattern interrupt. I don't know if this makes any sense, because that's what they're thinking. So as soon as I say, I don't know if this makes any sense, they think, oh, me either. Instead of, this doesn't make any sense, say something smart. Now, I'm immediately on their side of the table when I say that. As soon as I say the word but, it erases everything I've said so far. As soon as I say but, it means this makes total sense. It's like me apologizing. I'm sorry, but you were acting like a jerk. Means I'm not sorry, right? So whatever I say, as soon as I say but, it erases everything I said before it. And then, I love this last line. Why don't I tell you? This is an embedded reference. Why don't I tell you why my clients think it does make sense? Don't ask me why you should hire me. Ask me why the clients that already work with us don't fire us. That's a better question, because they could leave whenever they want to. And this is such a big deal. What this does is it evokes covetousness, and I'll go into that a little bit on the next slide. But the gist of it is covetousness has been around for a very, very long time. Anybody know the 10th commandment? Thou shalt not covet. Right? Now, that's different than the 7th, thou shalt not covet your neighbor's wife, but you're not even supposed to want their stuff. Right? Now, it doesn't say thou shalt not get people to covet. Right? So that makes sales legal. But it was such a big deal that everybody wants what everybody else has had. They had to chisel it and sewn and say, no, that's against the rules, and the burning bush told me, and you guys got to stop that. That's in a book. You guys haven't read that one. That's a whole different series. So I like to have goals, right? The reason that 10 Marines can defeat 100 people in a firefight is we just do something a little bit different than they do. They're winging it. Matter of fact, most people are doing this in a firefight because it's scary. And then some are doing this. And the Marines are just doing this. Front sight post, rear sight aperture, slow, steady trigger pull to the rear. You go over that way. You guys go over that way. I'm going to go down this way. Nobody chickens out. Got it? Good. All right? So the only thing I'm doing different is I know what my objective is before I go into every engagement still. So here's my objectives. I call this one the cheap trick. This comes from the band, The Cheap Trick. Right? I want you to want me. I abandon, don't make me sing it. All right? Right? The problem, most people go into a meeting and I'm a high I. So when I go into a meeting, I had a strong desire for them to like me. I want you guys to like me. If you don't fill out the survey and say you like me, I'll cry about it. Promise. So here's the deal. I just changed it. I no longer go into a meeting wanting them to like me. I want them to want me to like them. That's even hard to say. I want you to want me. Right? I want you to say, when will Tim come back? Because when Tim's here, it's good for me. Right? That's a big leap. But that's what I'm going for when I'm in the meeting. I'm trying to sound different than everybody else. That's my pattern interrupt. I'm trying to engage curiosity or inspire confidence, one or the other. I want them thinking, what? Or whoa, right off the bat. What? Or whoa, got that? That's pretty easy. I want to connect with them. I want them to understand immediately that what I do is really about them. My mission is client success. When they understand the mission of my company is that I'm going arm in arm with you on a journey. I might not be able to help you. Helping is condescending. But I'm going to go with you on a journey, and I won't quit. I guarantee you that. We come out the other side, you're going to say, man, that was awesome. We know that we use the pain funnel in Sandler to get people emotional because people buy for emotional reasons, and then they justify it intellectually. So if I'm going to say a 30-second commercial, or if I'm going to ask for a referral, I need that emotion present, or they'll try to sell me intellectually and they'll blow it. I need to relieve pressure. I don't know if this makes any sense. Instant pressure relief. because they're saying, me too. And I need to evoke covetousness. And that's really, that's what it's all about. I need them to want what the other people already doing with business with me have. And when they want that, all I need to do is be present as a third party at the event of the sale. Because I'm going to find out, what do you need? I'm going to go get it and bring it to you. If I don't have it, I'll just say I don't have it. Sound fair? Upfront contract style. So here's the deal. You've got to abandon what everybody else does. Here's how every other competitor, nobody in this room, but all your competitors are going in there and they're trying to explain what they do and convince you that you need it and justify all your objections so we can figure out how to get this done. You can't do that. You've got to be able to tell them something that they can see, that they can feel, that they can hear. That's primary sensory dominance, right? And I'm going to figure out as I'm doing that, are they are they visual, are they auditory, are they kinesthetic? And how am I going to connect with them? But I can't just explain what I do, even if they say, explain what you do. Tell me about sales training. Explain electricity. How do I explain electricity to somebody without sounding like an idiot? So you've got to figure out, how do I tell them a story about it? So I love the word imagine, because we all understand transactional analysis in here. And as soon as I say imagine, you slip into your child ego state, and you start thinking, wow, it's story time, and Tim's going to tell me a story, right? So here we go. The end. No, I'm just kidding. So the idea is, imagine what it would like being in this room. What it would be like if we didn't have any air conditioning. 600 people in here breathing, carrying on, taking notes, getting nervous. No air conditioning. No lights. So now we got some candles or some torches or something so you can see this, right? No sound, so I'm just going to yell at electricity. Right, that's what you need, electricity. And I was just trying to evoke some emotions with a story. We are a storytelling species. We've only been writing this stuff down for a couple hundred years. Before that, we sat around the fire and we made stuff. I mean, we told stories about what really happened. Right? But the reality is most people don't realize that. So they put themselves in a trap. And the common trap is when they say, what do? You give them your 1 or 2 word descriptor of what it is that you do. So if I say I'm a chiropractor or I'm a sales coach, they immediately put me in a box with their only other experience of what that title is associated with. And that could be a problem. Because some chiropractors are in strip malls, and you go in there and they x-ray you and they tell you got a curved spine and they start giving you a crack in your back and boom, you're out of there. And some, they're talking about a major sports complex for an NFL or an NBA team, and they've got machines for everything. That's a totally different experience. So I don't want to risk just saying I'm a sales trainer and then they think I'm the human resources guy that does product training for $35,000 a year once a week for 2 days and bores the crap out of them. I mean, they don't want to talk to me if I say that doesn't inspire confidence, it doesn't engage curiosity. So don't answer, ask. So by way of example, if I was a chiropractor, I would just say something along the lines of, hey, do you know anybody that can't even stand up or can't even sit down at their desk, has to have one of those stand-up desks because of their back pain? Somebody can't even bend over and pick up their kids anymore? Can't play the sports they used to play? Anybody know anybody like that by show of hands? Who? Yeah, I work with people like your brother. Boom, now we've connected. Right? All I did was ask them a question with some emotion in it, with some struggle in it, and then whoever they say, I just say, yeah, I work with people like that. Now we have something in common. Instant commonality in a little 3-sentence, little 3-ask story. That's all I'm looking for. Here's another way. I stole this from the Breakthrough Email guys. I love this one. Because pain is the difference. And some people have a hard time thinking of what's that story? What are those questions from the previous slide? So I use this one to figure out, because pain is the difference between where they are with all their frustration and where they'd be without all that with you. So the best way to do it is go to your existing clients, your favorite clients, and just ask them, hey, what's awesome about what I do? What did you like about it? So your existing clients, ask them, what was my life like before? What was your life like before you were working with us? While you were working with us, what was it like? And what's it like now that you don't have any of those problems? Whatever your clients, your best clients tell you, that's what you should tell your prospects. And if you just change what you say just a little bit, instead of me telling you what I do, why don't I tell you what my clients tell you I do? Now it's an embedded referral, an embedded reference to somebody else. It'd be weird if I told you what I do. I think I'm great. Why don't I tell you what my clients think I do? Now it's not as weird. So that's what I use that for. You've seen the pain discovery chart a couple of times this week. I really dig in on this pain discovery chart. The way it looks in the Sandler tools, if you guys haven't seen it, is there are the features on one side, and then the benefits, right? And then the impact that it's going to have on your client, whether your product or service is going to do whatever it is. And then the last column is kind of important. That's what I obsess about when I'm going for referrals or my 30-second commercial. What is the story that I'm going to tell? The statement that I'm going to make, right? Or the question that I'm going to ask that's going to get them to say, man, I need that. Now, I'm not a particularly creative guy, so when John Rosso put up that empty chart, I was like, I need more, right? So I turned this into this, just my upfront contract on, as I know that this is ridiculous. But in the Marine Corps, we did everything with acronyms. So my acronym for this is the third party FWC FBY Diddy. Now, I say it like that, so I'll remember to use it, right? So here's how it goes. Third party is just a third party story. So I'm like, well, these other guys, not you maybe, but they're frustrated with this, that's the F. They're worried about this, that's the W. They're concerned with this, that's the C, right? And this feature and benefit that I got takes all that away, and then instead of me telling them why, I throw in my why diddy. You might want to write this down. WDYTTI. And that is, why do you think that is? When I started putting why do you think that is on the end of my sentences, instead of telling them why, what I found is they always knew the answer. Now, you can't say it with your critical parent. Why do you think that is? That won't work. You got to say it with your nurturing parent, or even struggle on purpose using Cartman's drama triangle, play the victim a little bit and say, hey, why do you think that is? Why do you think other people like that? And what will happen is they'll answer. No matter what they say, all you have to say is, yeah, you're right. Why else? And then they'll give you other reasons that they should do business with you. It's the craziest little psychological phenomena I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to give you another question like that in a couple of minutes. But why do you think that is? WDYTTI is money. So here's my 5-second commercial. 5-second commercial starts with a pattern interrupt. My pattern interrupt is usually kind of some version of soften, answer, and reverse. Because they ask me what I do. I don't like doing that cutesy thing like, I'm a problem solver. You know, just give them something that's nebulous and they don't know what I do still. All right, I want to be very specific. So I'll tell them something like, hey man, thanks a lot for asking. I'm a sales coach, soften and answer. And then I got to reverse. And my reverses, I'll give you a couple of our favorite ones. This one backfired on me the first time I've used it, but I've used it a lot since then. When I tell you that, what picture pops into your head? So if I told you, hey, thanks a lot for asking. If I told you I was a sales coach, what picture pops into your head? And the guy said to me, I picture you standing in front of a car dealership wearing a cowboy hat carrying a bullwhip. I'm like, bam. That is exactly why I need a 5-second commercial, because this was a networking event. And he asked me that question. He didn't care. And he also had a very low opinion of me. So is now the time I want to start trying to convince him to do business with Timmy? Get my emotional needs met? No. I'm immediately going to humiliate him with my questions. I know. I can't believe I said that out loud. No, I'm networking, right? So I just jump into my 3 loaded for bear questions. I'm like, hey, what's your ideal client? Like, I didn't even hear what he said. He doesn't know what his ideal client is, and he doesn't know how to articulate that. I know that because I survey everybody. If he crushes it, I'm like, cool. So when your clients brag about you, what do they say? He'll say something stupid and cliche as he buries himself. And I'll say, let's say I wanted to introduce you to somebody in this room. How do you want me to introduce you? Now at this point, will have proved to me that he's completely incompetent. Right? With 3 questions, I'll unwind them. What's your ideal client? When your clients brag about you, what do they say? And if I was going to introduce you in this room, how would I do that? And as soon as they don't know, they say, how would you do it? I'm like, bam, we're back to talking about my favorite subject. I may not be much, but I'm all I think about. I love that line. So what picture comes to mind is good. A little toned down version for that if you can't, if you don't have a sense of humor or you don't like that stuff. I like to say, hey, that might mean something different to everybody. What's it mean to you? It's just a reverse. If I told you I'm an accountant, That means something different to everybody. What's it mean to you? And I let them try to describe what I do, and I can either say close or not close right afterwards. If I'm sure there's an incumbent, so if I'm a financial advisor or an insurance agent, or I'm competing in a bid against somebody that I know is a strong incumbent, I'm not going to try and pretend like I'm better than that person. I immediately go right at them with, hey, I'm a sales trainer. I know you guys have done some sales training. I'm just curious. What do you love about your current guys? Yeah, what else? What else? And I don't mind asking them the positive things. And then I just hit them at the end with, typically, no matter how hot your girlfriend is, there's at least one person that's sick of her. Right? So with that in mind, it must be like one thing that you'd improve. Like, what would it be? If you just had a magic wand, you could wave it, and it'd be one thing that you could change about your existing relationship. What would it be? And now I'm ready to go into the 30-second commercial. Or the pain funnel. If they jump right on it, man, I'll skip the 30-second commercial and just go right into, tell me more, give me an example, be more specific. How long has that been a problem? Wow, what have you tried? What impact's that having on your life? It's almost like I've done this before, fair? But I like knowing where I am. So here's my 30-second commercial. Again, it's the pattern interrupt. I don't even know if this makes any sense. I'm a sales coach. Right? It'd be weird if I told you what I do. Why don't I tell you what my clients say I do? Typically, they're frustrated that their people aren't either aren't getting in front of enough people, or when they get there, they don't know what to say. Right? That worries them. And they're concerned ultimately that's affecting their bottom line. And then I got to close my joke strong. If that's not you, that's okay. I call that the It's Nutso, because I have to make an acronym out of everything. But I call it the It's Nutso, ITSNUTSO, right? So that I'll remember to say it. You ever had somebody tell you a joke and they forget their own punchline? Right? Under pressure, you will revert to style. We know this. So before the pressure is there and the emotion's there and all those nerves are there, I want to know I'm going to throw an It's Nutso or a hero or an imagine on the end. The hero is hopefully you're okay. I've gone for no, by the way, like 4 times in just this sentence. Right? If you haven't read that book, Go for No. It's unbelievable. I don't know if this makes any sense. No, it does. I want to tell you why other people want it. They're frustrated, they're worried, they're concerned about this, that, or the other thing. I don't suppose that's you. If that's not you, that's okay. No, that's me. Okay, cool. Now we're talking. All right, so I'm only using my 30-second commercial to jumpstart them into the pain funnel. All right, so now that we're tight, and I realize this is a 45-minute session, and I got like 8 hours of content I'm cramming in here. I'm going to try and finish early. Right? Now that we're comfortable with what we're going to say, wouldn't it be cool if we could turn all of our clients into advocates? Suspect, prospect, client, advocate. Now I don't have to prospect. If all my clients are bragging about me, it's warm referral time. So this is a real picture of me. That's a real grouper. It was out of season, so keep that to yourself. So I put the bananas there. Anybody know why bananas are unlucky on fishing boats? Yeah, that's what most people think. I showed up to this particular day, and one of the other guys showed up with bananas, and the captain got all weird about it, like, no bananas on the boat. And I'm like that curious kid, so I went home and Googled it, like, why no bananas on the boat? And it's because they're unlucky. But I still wanted to know why. Well, it turns out that bananas, as a fruit, as a crop, they ripen faster than a lot of other stuff. So the banana boats crossing from the Bahamas or some other country to the United States would have to travel faster as they crossed the water. So they used to also fish while they crossed the water because then they could sell those fish in port. The banana boats would show up with significantly less fish than the other boats. So they would say banana boats are unlucky. But guess what? They're crossing faster. Anybody connected this yet? Less fishing, less fish. So I'm like, I'm a code breaker. all I gotta do is do more than them. I love this story. So here are the top 7 reasons that you don't get as many referrals as you want. Anybody want to guess number 1? Crushed it. We don't ask. Right? Number 2, we're not specific enough. I want them to, if they've heard my story about those emotional things that my product or service relieves or the pleasure it puts them in receipt of, if they know vividly what I do, then they'll know other people like that. We rescue our prospects. This is a very common one. You feel weird about asking, so you don't ask, and when they don't give or you don't give and you don't set it up right, As soon as they're like, I don't really know anybody, you let them off the hook. And that's okay. And it's not just referrals from clients, it's referrals from clients and friends, and colleagues, and strategic alliances. And I'll give you my 4 or 5 best thoughts on the subject, and that's all I got for you. You'll have to practice it back home. We don't set the expectation in the post-sell that we're going to ask for referrals. I don't have the guts to ask for a referral in the post-sell when they're at the peak of happiness because they've decided to buy from me. But I do have the guts to say, I want you to love this, but I want it to be more than that. I want you to love it so much that you're bragging about it because I want to have other clients like you that get it. And I want to do less prospecting so I can spend more time with my clients. So now if I just lay that bomb out there at the end of every closing meeting, 6 months later, when I start asking them for referrals, it doesn't sound like I'm desperate. And I never want to sound desperate because I'm an egomaniac. We heard this one from Krish yesterday. We don't give, so we don't get. If you dedicate your life to giving referrals in the appropriate manner, watch what happens. If you be that person, if you're really altruistic about this, miracles will happen. This one looks the same, but it's significantly different. We make it about us. I tell my prospective referring sources that don't refer business to me as a favor to me. Refer business to me as a favor to the person that you're referring. They should come back and say, man, thanks for introducing me to Tim. That changed my life. That changed my business. And until I've got you there, no referrals is fine. It's a game changer. I was sold relative return hedge funds through banking channels at one point in my career. And what I found is the average banker, while they were fantastic at what they did on a day-to-day basis, they couldn't articulate what a relative return hedge fund was or an offering memorandum or why we could charge 5% and 40% of profits and get away with it. So their referral would get the person confused. Or if it was a sophisticated, serious prospect, they would inspire no confidence and they would think this guy probably doesn't know what he's doing, and then they wouldn't even take the meeting. So when I just changed that around a little bit, just say I'm confident it'd be worth your time to meet with Tim. It changed the whole game. And the last one is we don't prepare. That's what we're doing today. Most people don't prepare to set themselves up to receive good referrals. So let's do some math first. I'm also a cookbook. I'm a big believer that if you know your upfront contract, your 30-second commercial, and your cookbook, you can crush it in this world. My basic cookbook is 50, 15, 5, and 1. 50 phone calls a week, that's only 10 a day, will get me 15 conversations on the phone or live. Of those 15 people, 5 will be vaguely interested in what I do and will have a serious conversation, and 1 will become a client. Bam, crushed it, right? So I just do the 50 every single week. Now, same thing with meetings. What I challenge you to do right now is think, in the last month, how many clients have you met with? If you've got one of those jobs where you only are meeting with a few a year, then make it a year. In the course of the last year, how many clients did you meet with? In this case, the answer was 8. How many referrals did you ask for? This is where most people fall down. They will tell you, I didn't ask. Now, when I was working in wealth management, my last corporate job, I ran the state of Florida for the Bank of New York Mellon. And I would ask those portfolios, are you asking all of our clients for referrals? And they'd be like, of course, sales manager, dude, get out of here, right? So I'd say, cool, pretend I'm them. How do you ask? And then they would just be mad, if that's a word, right? Because they would say something like, well, if you think anybody, keep me in mind. That's not asking for a referral in my mind. I wanted to prepare a little bit more than that. So number 1 is ask more. Number 2 is measure the percentage. If I ask 4 times, 50% of the time, and I get 2 referrals, then I can work on the other side of the equation. I'm not asking enough. I'm not asking the right way. Only 2 levers. Tim loves only 2 levers. I'm not getting in front of enough people. I'm not saying the right stuff. So let's work on that a little bit. But let's do the math first. There's a consequence. I love the consequence. For me, if I ask 10 times, maybe I suck at what I'm doing, but if I get 5 referrals, all right, if I get 5 referrals, 2 of those will be legitimate prospects. And if I get 2 legitimate prospects, I get 1 client, I make $10,000 in the course of a year. So that's $1,000 per ask. So I just turned it on its head. I reward myself when I ask by saying, just made $1,000. Anybody know anybody that needs some coaching in Palm Beach, Florida? Bam, just made $1,000 because I asked. Even if I did it lousy, I still asked. But if I don't ask, I may as well put $1,000 on the table and just leave it there. Now, I don't like having that kind of a drain out of my wallet. But a lot of people do that because they just don't ask. Or, I got this off the internet, so I know this to be statistically accurate. So here's how this works. They get a cold name and a phone number. If you got a name and a phone number, you have a 10% chance at best of closing that deal. I call that a phantom lead, and we used to get those all the time in my world. A cool call, I literally triple my chances of closing this deal if I get them to call ahead for me. And I'll go into exactly what I asked them to say. Right? Now, I can get it even a warm lead if I can get them to tell a cool story about their experience with me. Now I've upped my chances of closing this deal to 50%. Now, if you want a 95% close rate, not even going to show it to you. All right, I'll show you. There, if you want an awesome lead, then I tell them, hey, take me to dinner. Let's go golfing. Let's go to that event together. And you tell them that story live with me present. And then we're having a conversation. Just a couple of professionals sitting around the table having a conversation. Now I have a 95% closing rate with that kind of advocacy in my corner. And your best clients, your best referral sources, if you're doing this for them as well, will gladly do this with you if you just have the courage to ask. So I call this priming. I'm always looking for opportunities. I like to set traps for myself. So anytime a client pays me a compliment, they're primed, and I have to ask them for a referral. So it hurts, but I have to trap myself. So one of two scenarios has to happen. Number one, they say, hey, Tim, man, you crushed it on transactional analysis this week. So I just have to soften that and say, thanks a lot, man, what'd you like? Now we're having a conversation. They're telling me a story. They're going to go on, and I'm going to be like, man, I really like that. And then I'm prepared to say, hey, man, if you know somebody that's not getting the same level of service that you're getting with working with us, I'd consider it a personal favor if you'd introduce me. And then I just shut my mouth. And that all came from them paying me a compliment. Now, on occasion, though, people don't pay me compliments. That's weird. But when that happens, I fish for one. And I say, hey, look, we've been working together for about a year. We've known each other for about a year, and we haven't really sent any business back and forth. I'm just curious, what would you say was the biggest impact that our company had on your company in the last year? Now, if they don't say something nice, now's not the time to ask for a referral, right? But if they do say something nice, same stuff. Hey, man, thanks for saying that. Really dig in a little bit, have a little conversation about it, and then same thing. Hey, I'd consider it a personal favor. If you know anybody that's not getting what we're getting together, if you could make an introduction. And if I ask it that way, I'm in Carbon's drama triangle and the victim, and I've scratched their itch to be the rescuer and save me and be the hero of the story, and I just go, yay, love stories, right? So here's how much I love stories. Here's another thing that I know is going to happen. I want to be primed with my third-party stories all day long because I know somebody will say to me, how's it going? Or what's going on? Anybody ever get that question throughout the day? Well, anytime somebody asks me that question, I hear a bell in my head that says, Timmy, ask for a referral. So I turn that question, how's it going or what's going on, into a struggle. Dummy up, struggle on purpose. I just give him the John Rosso sigh first. Is John in here? He does that so well, he crushes it. I didn't have that sigh until I met John, and then I brought it into my world. I'm like, all right, cool. So, and then I tell him a quick little story. You know what I'm struggling with? I got this company. They've hired all these salespeople, and they're just like, we just need to hire more salespeople so they can go sell. But they got no common sales language. They're just all out there winging it, doing it their own way. Man, I just don't know what to tell this guy. And if I struggle, they'll solve my problems for me. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. So when I told you that story, who were you thinking about? Sounds like you know what you're talking about. That question, who are you thinking about? I haven't turned it into an acronym yet. I'm thinking about Wayuta or something like that. I don't know. I'll think of something eventually. But I stole this question. I remember the guy I stole it from. His name is Tim Sheehan in Atlanta, Georgia. And he said, my favorite question of all time is, who are you thinking about? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, I tell a story, and then I say, who are you thinking about? I'm like, why do you do that? And he goes, because one of three things happen. Either they were thinking about somebody and they immediately tell you, and now you have a referral. Or they weren't thinking about anybody and they start thinking about somebody because it's weird, and then you get a referral. Or they don't know anybody, and then you don't want to talk to them anymore. And I'm like, yeah, I love formulaic stuff, right? Who are you thinking about? Here's another way. I started my career off at the Naval Academy, so we did a little sonar stuff there. I wrote my thesis paper on underwater sonar and acoustics. It was quasi-geostrophic pseudopotential vorticity. I just say that so you think I'm smart, but some admiral wrote it on a napkin at a bar, and I turned it into a paper. So here's how sonar works. S. If you're not a natural storyteller, this is an enabling thing to help you tell better stories. S. What's the situation? O. What's the opportunity that you saw? N. What did they need? A. What action did you take, and what was the result? So I saw this situation. It looked like they could double their sales, but what they really needed was a common sales language. So I jumped in, not really even knowing if we could help them, and we started doing some sequencing and some repeating and some intermingling of some key Sandler concepts, and man, here was the result. They doubled. When I tell you a story like that, who are you thinking about? And then magic happens. Just by throwing a who you thinking about at the end of a nice, well-thought-out story that's real. Okay, real stories are definitely better than fake ones. Here's another one. You've got to be the master of negative reversing in order to use this one successfully. Inner circle, outer circle. This one can be used inappropriately, but I like it. If you use it right, it relieves a lot of pressure and also has a doubling effect in the yield. So inner circle, outer circles, I'm like, hey, who's the most relevant person that you know that might be a good introduction for me? So if you're a wealth management guy, by way of example, who's the richest person you know? Right? And then no matter what they say, I say, not them. Right? Or, yeah, that one sounds good, but you might be too close to that person. You want to be, the trick to negative reversing is slightly less enthusiastic than they are, not crazy less enthusiastic. So what'll happen when I immediately take that one off the table, they'll either justify why that's a good lead for me, so I'm right where I want to be, or they'll think of somebody else. Now I got two leads. One might not be real, but at least I got two. Now, there are times when it makes sense to get together with another professional in town and brainstorm how we can give each other leads. I like to break open LinkedIn nowadays and just say, I'll bring my LinkedIn, you bring yours, we'll sit there with my computer open first, and you just tell me buzzwords, and I'll sail them into Sales Navigator, and I'll pull them up, and I'll say, man, this is a first-person introduction. Why don't I send them an email right now and then see if we can find a time to get together, give you a 95% close rate. What? And then even taking it further. If you guys haven't seen Crystal yet, I don't know Crystal, I don't know those guys, all I know is this thing is money. Right from LinkedIn, you can press a little button and then the CIA gets into your computer and does a disk profile on them right there. I don't know how it works, but it's crazy. And so now you've got a profile that you can give them and an introduction. This person's a D, an I, an S, or an I, so you might want to figure this out. Whatever it is, it's crazy. So here's how I run that meeting. The idea here is don't jump on the first name they give you. Try to get 7 names before you start. So do you know any successful people? This is scope. S. Do you know any consultants? You know any owners, business owners? You know any professionals, attorneys, accountants, doctors? How about any entrepreneurs? And you can make your own acronym up based on who your ideal client is. But I want to have this brainstorming meeting, and the idea is don't get details, get 7 names. Once you get 7 names, you can say, based on that list you gave me, who do you think is most likely on that list to take a call from me? No matter what they say, negative reverse, oh, why them? Why that name? Just curious. And then they'll tell you more. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you know them? 1 being, they might not even recognize your name. 10 being, they'd drive over to your house in the middle of the night to give you $200 without any questions. I want to know that right up front. Now I'm ready to double my odds of success. Double my odds, right? Could I impose upon you to give them a call first? Now, you got to answer the what's in it for me here. If you ask somebody to say, look, can I impose upon you to give them a call first? I want to tell you why. Because I want to make sure that they understand the purpose of the call and that they don't feel like you're giving their name out around town. Crazy. This one's crazy important. Are you comfortable with what you're going to say? And all you need to do is, let's go back to that story that you told me. That story would be a great way to do it. If you're not a particularly good storyteller, I'm confident it would be worth your time to meet with Tim. That'd be great. Try that. Now that I've got them all warmed up, I'm going to hand them the psychological baton of power. This is when I find out if they're really going to make that call. I borrowed this from the decision step. That's the other place we use the psychological baton of power, just by saying, hey, yeah, there's other decision makers involved, but if they weren't involved, do I still have your vote? Now you got the baton, you better run with it. Same thing here. Can I check back in with you? Because if for whatever reason, when you say I'm confident it would be worth your time to meet with Tim, if they resist it, I want you to know that's totally okay. And I would rather not bother people that you're kind enough to refer to me than call them and act like a weird salesperson. This one is huge. Because when you relieve the pressure of them making that call, you've doubled your chances of them making that call. Now here's the fun part, making the call. When I dial the phone, I don't know about you guys, but when I dial the phone, only 4 things can happen. They answer, they don't want to talk to me. They answer, they do want to talk to me. A gatekeeper answers, or I get a voicemail. The other team has only 4 plays. Wow. So I prepare for all 4 plays. Because when I get a referral, I immediately follow up. And mine sounds something like this. Did I catch you at a bad time? And if they say no, that means go. So I went for no right away. It took me 2 years to figure out the genius of David Sandler and did I catch you at a bad time instead of did I catch you at a good time. Did I catch you at a bad time? I don't even know if this makes any sense. Other people are frustrated, covetous clause, right? That their people are either not getting in front of enough people or when they get there, they're not saying the right stuff. And they're concerned that that's affecting their bottom line. If that's not you, that's okay. The funny thing here is if they say, yeah, you caught me at a bad time. First of all, it's 2019, so I know they're lying. You don't answer the phone if it's a bad time, you let it go to voicemail. So I just say, oh, my bad. But I'm still going to do the exact same thing. Why don't I quickly tell you why I called, and then you can tell me whether it makes sense for you to call back. Fair? And they're like, go, because I'm about to shoot you down twice. And then I'm like, well, other people are frustrated about this, they're worried about that, they're concerned about that. Same thing. If that's not you, that's okay. And they're like, yeah, don't call back, or call back. And I don't care, because I'm getting paid by the dial. 50 of these makes 10 grand for Tim. Crushed it. Voicemail, same thing. Guess I caught you at a bad time. I don't even know if it makes sense to call back. Same spiel. Gatekeeper, little different. I just empower them. Bob's not in. I'm not even sure if this makes sense for Bob. Why don't I tell you why all Bob's counterparts want it? They're frustrated about this, worried about that. What do you think? You're the gatekeeper. Right? So I'm just going to empower them. And the entire time, I know exactly what I'm going to say so I can make 10 times as many calls as everybody else. And then I got to celebrate it. This is easy. Follow up. Let them know that you did it. Let them know that you appreciate it. And here's my big close. Here are the referral tips. Ask for referrals even though it's outside your comfort zone. Just prepare, put down some goals, and go for it. Don't accept a lead instead of a referral. Increase your odds of actually making that referral resonate. Get introduced with a story because we're a story-selling species. Once you get them to have a good story, they don't have to remember how to articulate what it is that you do. They just need to know how to do it. And then ask for a personal introduction. Take it from 50% to 95%. Have the courage to ask for a personal introduction. That's all I got.